Hello, hello, welcome to the After Hours Gaming League, and it's time for a little bit of Week 2 action here. I'm Day 9, and it's time to dive right into Game 1 between Facebook and Google. In the right position, we have Angstman, the engineer from Facebook, who has many healthy hobbies, such as weightlifting and playing squash, but has still found time in the last 15 years to play Starcraft. That is how long he has been playing, and up in the northern position, we do have none other than Tito, who describes himself as a software engineering zealot who is passionate for the code and passionate for a little bit of Starcraft. We do see Tito spawning as the Zerg player up at the top, the Google Zerg versus the Protoss from Facebook. It's going to be on Metalopolis. Immediately we see Tito sending out that first scouting overlord. And he's going to be doing a little bit of espying upon the enemy. And there is the very first building from Angstman, a pylon, and already this reveals a good amount of preparation. Notice the distance of this pylon, just barely in range to be able to throw down buildings at the entrance, to constrict that front, maximizing the amount of use out of one pylon, and also spots the Overlord, so that will allow Angstman to do the correct direction of scouting. This is the Blizzard ladder version of Metalopolis, so absolutely no restrictions that have been placed on the newer maps. That means any of the start position pairs is possible. Many of the tournament maps have restrictions forcing everything to be cross-map start locations always. Not here. So Angstman staying prepared. Doing a little scouting, we see Tito having a very early pool. Holy cow, that's actually, I believe, a 9 or a 10 pool. I was busy lauding this pylon and ignoring the fact that Tito's like getting ready to attack. We do see that the first Overlord is popping out right now. Drone joining the fray. We'll go off to head to mine, and Tito has himself a well-timed little early push action. And wow, Angstman quite concerned about an early death. Throwing down a fast forge as well. There is a possibility that Zerglings can slip through the cracks of these buildings. We'll need to throw down an additional one if he wants to hope to stay alive. And how will Tito follow this up? He does have the first 6 Zerglings being made. There's the Queen. Is he going to opt for more drones? He is. Wow, Tito actually immediately following all of this up, going directly for economy again. And it looks like he does have enough for an Overlord. Hasn't quite morphed anything yet. Just sending everything to the front. And there's Angstman throwing down a cannon at the front of his base. Has actually walled this one probe out. He is stuck out there to face the wilderness in the wild alone. And here come the first 6 Zerglings, going to arrive there very early, and they miss the probe. The probe slides right on through, and they're beginning to work down on the forge. And here comes the Zealot. Uh-oh, it looks like it's going to end up popping out. Hugely vulnerable. Zealot! What are you doing popping out on that side? You're not supposed to be over there. And the cannon's getting increasingly close to finish, but we are going to see Tito pull back at the last second and corner the naked, lonely probe. He is like a dog that was left outside in the rain, except instead of rain, it's ferocious creatures that want him to die. So we do see Tito taking himself a fast first base after that early pressure. This is a very unusual situation that the Zerg finds himself in. There's no threat of any immediate pressure, but the one thing that Zerg would have loved to know is whether those geysers had been planted. He could float an Overlord there now and check it out, but if Zerg realizes how delayed those geysers are, that could be a huge leg up for Tito, and as a result, a huge leg up for Google. Both of these teams are 0-1 in the After Hours Gaming League. They both lost their first week games. This is the opportunity for one of these teams to put a win on the plate, and an opportunity for another team to have more team meetings where they talk about how much they need to practice. We do see Tito keeping all of his Zerglings in a nice counterattack position down by the third base. This is always important to have in the later stages of the game, but right now Tito should definitely take some opportunities to spot if that Expo will be going down at any point. Angstman is very far behind. The Facebook Protoss, just now starting his cybernetics core, is just now getting the opportunity to start being aggressive, and we see Tito already has that Evo chamber up. Now, I'm hoping he's getting a really fast +1 attack upgrade. Often what can happen with any sort of tournament situation is that you overthink it when the pressure's on. It's very easy to say, oh my gosh, I've done the initial damage. Let me get some detection to make sure I don't lose to DTs. There's no possibility of detection, or excuse me, of Dark Templar coming up anytime soon. And uh-oh, there it is. We do see a Spore Crawler going down in the main of Tito. Looks like he is preparing for Void Rays already, but we can clearly see that the Cybernetics core is only just finished. Look at the Warp Gate research has only just now started. Absolutely no immediate threat of any sort of Void Rays. But honestly, Tito has a nice, healthy position at this point. Can easily make lots and lots of workers and macro up hard. And we see the first Zealot from Anxman, loses focus on it. It gets picked off by a Queen and a Spine Crawler. Tito building many a drone and a very fast layer, actually an incredibly fast layer going down. I like this follow-up. He has his opponent contained. He's done the pressure. We see almost no units for Anxman. Zero chance of Anxman putting on a lot of pressure. Anxman maliciously killing off one of his own buildings. No, he's actually trying to break down his own wall off so that way he can take a fast expansion. Looks like Anxman, despite being thrown off kilter, going to pull back and do his usual expanding style. And by his usual expanding style, I mean the Protoss usual expanding style of many a century and a faster expansion. Tito, once again, really devoting to that layer tech. We see geysers 3 and 4 finished right now. The layer is nearing completion. I would strongly believe that a Mutalisk transition is going to be popping up. And look at how late everything is in Anxman's base. That early pressure with the 10 pool did tremendous delays to the Protoss player. Ordinarily, this Nexus gets started by around 6 minutes and 30 seconds, but we see it not even getting started around 8 minutes. A gateway, and it looks like a Twilight Council going down. Is Anxman really going to go for a 4-gate blink pressure? He should definitely pull back and take himself an expansion. He's in desperate need of some resources. And there it is. There's the Spire by Tito. Had a plan at the start of the game and is sticking to it. Wants to unleash a huge amount of air pressure, given the fact that these two players are close by air distances and a little farther away by ground. Anxman playing very cautiously, getting an early photon cannon, getting the +1 upgrade, and even getting hallucination to allow him to do a little bit of scouting. And there's the Nexus, almost a full 2 minutes late given those early pressures from the Zerg. The Phoenix is going to get the chance to pop in there, and ooh, I'm liking this from Tito. He's getting himself a fast +1 attack upgrade, and here he is scouting in through the base, and it looks like Anxman will get taken down. Doesn't get the chance to see these extra gas geysers. Tito, unfortunately, forgetting to throw some drones in one, but looks like he is continuing to spread out those overlords, get some good vision control over the map. Tito, the friendly Zerg, going to be unleashing the scariest of all air assaults, the Mutalisk push. But wow, it's actually fortunate that we do see Anxman from Team Facebook going for that fast blink, because he's going to be quite muta-proof. But is he skill-proof? That's what the question that we're all wondering is. Tito having a good set of transitions. I honestly like this +1 Zergling upgrade, because even though we don't see any Zerglings on the map, well, actually should probably start getting Zergling speed, so that way Zerglings can actually go places. But a Mutalisk Zergling mix is becoming the trend in this matchup. All of the fast units, the units that aren't necessarily good in direct engagements, but are so fast that you can easily slip in and out and counterattack like crazy. And look at this, a Dark Shrine! Uh-oh, Tito not actually going to have enough detection up. Starting to build a couple Zerglings. We see a lot of gas now being dumped into those Mutalisks, and we see 8 Mutalisks are on the field. And now heading in towards the main. Looks like it's done a pretty big amount of damage. We see a lot of resources starting to rack up in the loss tab for Tito. And those sentries, oh no, it looks like Tito going to avoid those entirely and is going directly over to the expansion. Probes get pulled off for a minute. And if we head back to the units loss tab, we can see 4 workers have been killed by Tito. Not too many. But Anxman, the Facebook Protoss, having to pull a lot of workers off mining. And there is the fast photon cannon. We see Tito now beginning to transfer workers over to the expansion, and look at this commitment to the air play, the plus air attack upgrade, the extra extractors right when the expansion's finished. We see, again, big devotion to the counterattack focus, getting the extra Evo chambers up, Zergling speed now starting, so we can really begin ramping up that pressure. We see some DTs getting morphed in. Now, I have a friend, his name is Tristan, and he regularly wins Ugliest Protoss vs. Zerg of the Year awards. He's actually won it 11 times in the last 10 days. And the way that this works is that you lose and lose and lose and lose and lose and lose, and then you get 2 Dark Templar and win immediately. And it looks like Anxman is hoping to get that win this year if he can pull off this sort of play. And it looks like, uh-oh, no detection in sight in the main. It looks like the Blink Stalkers are going to be able to pull it back, and it looks like there is the Overseer getting morphed. There's a Transfuse. Tito doing everything he can to keep it alive, and it looks like it's about halfway done. There's more Transfuses. Tito doing another Transfuse! Oh, and Axeman will evade the ugliest PvZ win of the year award. And I mean, if you just imagine that transfuse, 125 life, 3 transfuses on it, that was just barely enough to keep that bad boy afloat. Would have died had he not done the transfuse. And if at first you don't succeed, try again, as is the motto. My friend Tristan, who just keeps making DTs whenever he is in bad shape. So let's see if Axeman is going to be able to recover. Though I'm enjoying teasing, it's more the enjoyment that I'm deriving out of the fact that Dark Templars can completely swing the tide of battle. Axeman not actually in a very bad position. He can use these Blink Stalkers to easily control. It looks like there's a target fire going down on the Twilight Council. Wants to kill that off to make sure that no Templar Archives can get constructed. And also there's the Blink. Oh, a huge Blink. Thought he was going to be isolating 3 Stalkers, but all of a sudden a huge Armada blunk right forth. A little bit of wasted Guardian Shield there. Axeman was expecting a little bit larger of engagement, and right now Tito's taking the center. Look at the way that Tito is exploiting the fast units. The only units that he actually has out right now are Lings and Mutalisks. This is going to allow him to do tons of runarounds, swing bys. He's monitoring these third bases, trying to keep control over his opponent. And while all that is going on, we see that Tito's going for the hive tech, expanding all around the map, distracting the opponent. And oh no, Axeman goes for some more DTs, but they are going to get assaulted if Tito decides to turn around. Tito! Axeman from Facebook gets a break. Tito, the Google Zerg, doesn't have his eyes on everything that Axeman is doing, and speaking of everything Axeman is doing, it looks like he is going for the double Stargate. Looks like he is having enough fear of the Mutalisks that he is going to begin producing those Phoenixes 2 at a time. Mutalisk gets isolated. Uh-oh, needs to be careful. There, the whole fleet is actually flying out of position, and there's the double Guardian Shield again covering all of those Stalkers, and there's the Archon now moving forward, jumping in the battle. It will not be enough for just these Mutalisks, and more Stalkers getting morphed in. It looks like he's target firing, and he takes it down! And then he's going to use the mobility of those Mutalisks to fly out, but he's got to be careful. There's another re-blink. He's losing a lot of Mutalisks. Look at the units lost tab. We see a few more resources worth of units have been lost by Tito, and there the Phoenix is getting produced 2 at a time, but the real danger right now is that the Greater Spire is coming up, just sprinted to that Greater Spire tech. And there we also see the adrenal gland for the Zerg player getting the extremely fast Zergling attack upgrade as well. Here the Phoenixes start coming. Phoenixes do massive damage to air units and can track down those Mutalisks, and a few escape with just a smidge of hit points, 6 and 8. And now the Roachhorn going down from Tito wants to get a little bit more bulk in his army mix. It does not want to just rely on these these speedy weak units. Axeman, now with that stockpile of minerals from the canceled Nexus, is going to try to retake that expansion. Couple Zealots coming out into the fray. And although Axeman has been pushed to the brink throughout this game, he's slowly getting a stronger and stronger army mix. And now all of a sudden, the burden's going to be back on Tito. Axeman sprinting forward, and oh, the Spore Crawlers! More commonly known as Pine Crawlers, burrowing now, but at the wrong time. Those will be taken out, and as we can see, the Corruptor is just emerging onto the field. They have not yet gotten the chance to morph into Broodlords, and it looks like Axeman making a big counter push and brilliantly expanding to the bottom right. Always expand behind your attack, the fundamental rule of aggression in StarCraft 2. And here comes a handful of units from Tito. Uh-oh, those Roaches have just entered the fray, but those Phoenixes are going to be able to do some big damage. The Archon is stuck in the back, though. He needs to blink them back, but it looks like the focus of Axeman is on the Phoenixes, trying to take out the Mutalisks, and those Mutalisk numbers are rapidly dwindling, but there's the Archon popping to the front of the fray, and now Axeman's getting the chance to rip apart these Roaches, but the numbers might be a little bit too high, but no, some fancy swap sexy blink micro from Axeman. Gives a little bit of the edge back to the Facebook Protoss, who's going to be pulling back. And he will be giving a cheer and telling all of his friends in a status update that he just took out the gold expansion. In the meantime, we have the Google Zerg Tito trying to find anything that he can do, seeing if perhaps he translates his strategy to Russian and back to English, if it will have some sort of answer, but at this point it is looking a little bit slim, as we see that this is a lot of cannons. This is actually quite brilliant to build this many cannons. If you've seen your opponent focusing on the counterattack methodology, all you got to do is build up the big strong army you've been building all game long and make sure that all your bases are covered. And there's Tito trying to re-expand, actually taking a 4th base at the left, thinking about retaking the 5th in the middle. some of those drones that were told early you must commit to mining the gold, believing their master, rushing off to their death, and holy wow. 9 Broodlords, but what do we see? Angstman preparing smartly, getting the Void Ray tech up. Exactly what he should be doing. And we see only 3 Mutalisks out. Oh no! Tito might make the classic mistake we saw Sen make against MC in the NASL semifinals. A gigantic army of Broodlords with not enough air support. If a couple of surprise Void Rays pop out, they could decimate this Broodlord force. And thousands of resources worth of units. We see already Tito has lost far more to his fast, inefficient army. Angstman now beginning to morph in more DTs, and we see that they are getting rallied over to those watchtowers, and a gold expansion being snatched up by Angstman. Hydralisk Den en route as well from Tito, and Tito desperately needs to begin producing either Infestors or Hydralisks. We see these 2 Void Rays are out, more Phoenixes popping out. Angstman again worrying about that mobility of the Zerg player. We see an armor upgrade for air. There's the level 2 ground upgrade, and here's a very large force from Tito, but it's all anti-ground. The only thing that can shoot up are these Mutalisks, and this is going to be a big surprise for the Google Zerg when he approaches this army of the... I keep wanting to call them the Twitter Toss, but he's not. He's just a regular old Protoss from Facebook, and here is the units swarming forward, the Zerglings and Broodlings overrunning the Stalker Zealot force, and we see the Void Rays and Phoenixes beginning to do their dirty work on all the Broodlords, and it looks like the Roaches will be able to corner the Stalker. They blink out of the way. And in the meantime, we see the Broodlords taking tremendous damage. Hydra's going to swing into the fray, but Phoenix is extremely good at lifting and annihilating those Hydros. There they are getting taken down now with that bonus damage from the Phoenixes, and Angstman looking better and better, taking a 5th base. The center now finishing up. Angstman simply needs to add on more unit-producing structures, keep his macro up, and he will overrun Tito with his massive units. We see the robotics facility being added on, so he will have a pair of those, and also in the back of the base, a robotics bay that does allow that Colossus tech to get produced, and 5 more frickin' DTs. Holy Angstman! What in the Angstman is going on? We see those DTs rally to that 4th base attempt by Tito. Tito looking slim, a frown is all over his face. At least I would assume, unless he's focusing like a normal player would. There's the observer from Angstman trying to check out if any sort of big attack is coming, and man, Angstman is more than prepared. We see not that many basic ground units, but the more advanced ones, the Dark Templar, the Void Rays, the Phoenixes are out right now, and there's another DT being brought into the fray, and uh-oh, looks like the 3rd base is a little bit vulnerable. He could begin working down on these structures. No, walks right into the detection. In the meantime, the battle up in center. Units getting lifted, the Roach Hydra army slowly dissipating as the 3 Dark Templar work their way through with that massive 50 damage per swipe. The Phoenix is not going to let anything retreat. Angstman going into cannon mode, needs to have that solid defense, which he absolutely will. More Void Rays being produced by Angstman, and the dreaded Colossus Void Ray mixture might be en route. The extended Thermal Lance is incoming for Angstman. Facebook looks like they're starting off in a very good way. Facebook, the team that started it all at AHGL. Tito now starting to try to rebuild some of those drones, but we see Tito also forced into this awkward Roach Hydralisk mix. Very good in middle-ish numbers, very good when you're in an emergency, but not the structure of units that you want to have in a large engagement. We see, oh no! Oh no! Another infestation pit. You might think that this is just a mistake from Tito, that he inadvertently built 2, but in reality, VU is the hotkey for build Ultralisk Cavern, VI is the hotkey for build Infestation Pit. You'll notice you and I are right next to each other on the keyboard, and that is not a pickup line, that is a cause for terror when trying to build an Ultralisk Cavern in a serious match. Game 1, very important in terms of momentum, and Angstman looks like he is starting to close the deal for Facebook, rushing on in, annihilating this hatchery. Nothing there to defend it. The small Roach Hydra army off Crete, gonna try to run up and do the best that it can. A lot of Hydras on the field, actually. Could potentially be bad for Angstman, but with those Phoenixes lifting up absolutely everything, I think he'll be in good shape. But Angstman, no! with a big miscontrol, ends up sacking a decent number of units, but with the number of Zealots, DTs, Phoenixes, Void Rays, and now a Colossus there to enter into the fray, I think Angstman is looking quite good. A Nidus Network is down. Would have maybe allowed a little bit of counteroffensive action by Tito, but at this point in time, Tito is running low on units. He's trying to pull back. He's getting another Overseer to try to see if he can spot any of those DTs, and the third falls for Tito. Angstman has 5 fully up and operational and defended bases. This one doesn't even have any probes at it, but he doesn't even need it at this time. He is unleashing the pain, and Tito amazingly getting drones, roaches, queens into the fray, and drones seemingly the counter to Colossi as they nibble away at his toes, causing him to die and explode in a fray of science fiction awesomeness. Tito now successfully defending that, reviving at least some temporary hope for Team Google. But Tito is going to need to have some kind of way to put pressure on fast as we see the army from Angstman slowly starting to regain hold. And you monster! What a jerk. Angstman getting a fleet beacon. Looks like he's going to be upgrading mass air. Might be going for carriers, but more likely than not, he's going for a mothership for a star-studded finish. More Zealots being warped in. Everything at 2-1 upgrades. Overlords advancing with Hydras, Roaches. All of the Zerg army is in the center. And if we pop to the resources station, we can see that so much death and destruction has been going on. In the army supply, amazingly, both of them are relatively close. But when we pop back to this unit counting station, we can see why. Angstman has 105 probes. Look at the number of probes he has on this screen. There are so many probes here. It's like 50 probes mining at this gold base, and more being transferred. Angstman being very responsible about never stopping his probe production, but he should probably sack a few of those to allow himself a little bit bigger of an army. Either way, with the amount of probes that he has, he can spend his money on these extremely expensive units like Dark Templar. And oh no! Mistiming the Unburrow, and there's the second fungal growth, and now he's going to be able to take out those DTs. Tito trying to re-expand. We see that the Observer spotting everything. That Nidus Network actually didn't die in that attack, so that could be a good help for him. And what do we see? A mothership is coming out, because he likes to go out with a bang. There's the Graviton Catapult. Makes all those interceptors pop out earlier. We see, interestingly, 2 cybernetics cores down, researching the +1 air weapons and the +2 air armor, so we can have super carriers. Carrier, Colossus, and other things that begin with C, such as cannons, chrono boosting, even a carapace upgrade if you've mind controlled in Brood War. All effective ways for the Protoss player to close out this deal. A 6th base going down by Angstman, who has a stunning 113 probes. There comes a point where probes should probably stop being produced, but Angstman, again, has such a tremendous lead that he's going to just hurl resources at his opponent. And there goes a little bit of probe hurling. You start to realize that he doesn't actually need this many workers and can go on these suicidal scouting expeditions, though these are intended to die to free up food for better units. He can also get a sneak peek and, for instance, see that there's 5 infestors here, get a count on their energy, even charge up, maybe get some Dark Templar in good position with these scouting probes. There are advantages that he can gain with those probers. And now we see essentially a death army. The mothership now slowly dragging the Cloak All ability forward. It's going to be very difficult for Zerg to defend this. He has a lot of infestors in place. He's going to need some big fungal growths. But one well-planted Vortex can make the Colossus Templar Archon mix just deal worlds of hurt. We see more pylons getting thrown down. Oh, this is going to sting so much. Neural Parasite getting researched. If that finishes, he can Neural Parasite the mothership and begin doing a little bit of Zerg cloaking. And there's the engagement. He's advancing forward. All the infestors underneath the ground getting feedback. Getting completely demolished, and Angstman, just completely obliterating. A huge finish, and there's the good game. Facebook is going to take the series to 1-0. So let's see if there's some way that Google can manage to pull it back in game number 2.